Welcome to Flame On. I am Brian. Nice to see everyone out there in wherever you're watching us today. I am very excited to sit here and talk to I will say young, because clearly you are younger than me, so you are young
Thank you.
without asking your age. Comic creator, writer, producer of this exciting new queer superhero book called Class 6. Fernando, welcome to Flame On.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you for having me tonight to talk to you. I'm so excited.
Good. I'm so thrilled because what's hilarious and weird about this is Fernando and I both have lived in Orlando, probably at the same time,
Yeah,
and also Seattle, also at the same time. So we're in oddly similar circles, which is
we have
always
been
fascinating.
closed.
Yeah, our paths have crossed without knowing. But if you're not familiar with Class 6, Class 6 is one of the more exciting queer superhero comics I've read in a while. Probably
Thank
not
you.
since Joe Glass's Pride have we had this really bold vision of a queer superhero comic come around. I mean, and in the indie world, in the mainstream, we're getting little bits here and there, yada, 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 whatever. But to really see some new, bold, independently published queer comic, superhero comic, is really cool. And so I'm really excited to talk about Class 6. But before we get into that, I want to know a little bit more about you, Fernando. So you are a creator. You are a writer. What were some of your like early like inspirations and sort of motivations to produce your own comics? Like what do you draw from, or what did you see not there that you really wanted to explore?
So I used to run a online gay publication. And one of my writers did an article about how the LGBT didn't have a strong representation in the mainstream comic book industry. And yeah, out of the blue, a character comes out of the closet, but that wasn't meant to be LGBT from the beginning. And honestly, I was like, we would have drinks, and I don't know, when I work out too, I feel very creative, and working out and having drinks and talking to my friends, I'm like, why we're not representing the comic book industry? Look at all the heroes we have, starting in Stonewall when transgenders and drag queens starting to fight for our rights, and everything and the story behind each of us is so unique and empowering that I feel like we needed to celebrate the heroes of our community, but it have to come from the community and not from some big companies trying to go after our money. And that's why I decided to create first one character. But then I was like, how about we create some character from our community and sub communities like bear, lesbian, twin, leather, drag queen, which is my favorite character, and show everybody that we all have what it takes to be a hero.
I love that. And what I really do think is cool about Class 6 is you found a way to, like you said, bring in all these different communities, but you also do an international perspective on that. And so I know from what you've told me, you spend a lot of time going all over the place, all over the world. And so talk about that, like, why did you want to focus on bringing in all these different characters from outside the United States and all over the world? Like, what led you to those types of places for characters?
That's a great question because I feel that especially the gay men, we live in a bubble that, you know, we only think about us here and what we'll, celebrate, and we're happy and we continue, to fight for our rights. We forgot that there is a whole lot of community that is being affected worldwide. And even from here, we can still help them. We can still make changes for them. That's why, traveling kind of opened my mind into what all the LGBT people around the world are going through. And I wanted to create awareness. Like, people didn't know that in some countries in Africa, lesbians are getting raped by their father, for example, or many other countries like Russia or Eastern Europe. They're so homophobic that they're throwing their transgender kids into the streets. So for me, it was about creating an awareness of all of us as a global community rather than us in our gay bubble in the US.
No, I love that actually because I've been able to travel a little bit myself in the last few years, all over the place, and it does really open your mind to the fact that life isn't just what's around you. there are so many people out there who have their own struggles and challenges. And you're right. Like your comic focuses in Uganda, and Slovenia. No, sorry, Montenegro.
Hong
You
Kong.
like and these are areas that may not have the best track record for their treatment of gays and lesbians. Not that the United States does either. To
Yeah.
be honest, we actually just watched Ratchet on Netflix last night, and we got to the episode where they were doing this whole thing with a lesbian character that's like trying to cure her, and it's not that long ago that the United States did nonsense like that. But
Yeah.
I do really hope that people learn from these experiences. And I've never been to those locations, unfortunately. So they're certainly on my list, right? Maybe not Uganda as much, but Africa.
Yeah.
Uh, but I think there's a certain amount of truth that you're telling, and like you said, or like you wanted to explore that, but you've been to a lot of these places, so you're able to draw really authentic stories out of people. I'm guessing somewhat who you've encountered, in the
Yeah.
world.
And even I have, for like the transgender character, I have met when I used to run the online publication, I made transgender kids and I met transgender from around the world. Um, and honestly, it's like it's just so sad to hear this experience. And when we talk and they start to cry and you just connect and they share their story, it's just like I wanted to portray this. I want to write about real life heroes, real life characters, and the importance that they have in our community. So I have met many people. I'm inspired by real people.
I mean, it comes through in the work, to be sure. The first character I want to talk about, because you talked about transgender, and is it Nevea?
Nevia.
Nevea.
Yeah.
Nevea is spectacular. She is a child who kind of comes out to her parents at a certain point, and then kind of has to kind of run away and kind of live on the street after coming out as transgender as a little girl, and then she gets caught up in shenanigans, nonsense, schemes. She's taken in by, I think, a sympathetic doctor. I forgot the doctor's name.
Dr. Smith. I
Uh,
mean,
eh, no.
sorry, I changed the name. I'm
Oh,
having
okay.
hard time pronouncing it because, uh, oh my
It's
God,
it's
Jovan,
yeah, yeah.
Doctor.
Milosevic. It's
No way.
it reminded me of a real figure in that part of the country or part of the world, and I was like, oh, the name is derived from such a. Doesn't matter. I'll keep talking while you look it up. Uh,
Yeah,
and then
Giovanni.
Giovanni gets this gender reaffirming surgery from them, or at least the beginnings of the therapy and then the surgery, and then is stopped by this evil. Is it Tihon?
Dr. Jihong, yeah,
Okay, so
scientist that worked for Russian government Orthodox Church.
So it's interesting because in several places you play with contemporary political figures. You're talking about Putin a little bit, and then spoilers, by the way. We're going to spoil a little bit of this. We're trying to spoil everything. We'll leave some stuff. But Obama shows up, and that was special, and I want to come
Yeah,
back to that one. But you also tie into the church and sort of this certain things that like religion has shrouded in their own mysteries and ceremonies, but may or may not be something else. So yeah, Dr. Tihon comes in and kind of stops everything, and then because of all of this, I'm going to say her name again wrong.
Nevia.
Nevea.
Yeah,
Gets superpowers. Like not only does she transition and get to be her best self, but she also gets superpowers. So like I love that, and I also kind of like the exploration of her power set from that. So I mean, was this, you said this was one of the first characters you kind of settled on?
yeah. She was my first character that I created. Actually, here I have the first pilot that I did with her, which is very
Oh.
different from the one now. Look at the inside pages. The
Oh
original,
wow.
it was very, very different. The concept.
Yeah, that's so cool though, because I love seeing where projects start and then where they end up, and because so often all we know is the finished product, and you've got a piece there that shows like no, we started here and it
Yeah.
was a little different. But I do love that because you kept like the broad strokes. Her hair, she's like a Medusa from the Inhumans with her hair,
Mm,
right? She's got
yeah,
that power of transforming herself, but also extending her body to do different things.
yeah.
um,
When I created her, I was thinking of having her to be like a scientist related. That's why like stem cells, because her adopted father, when he found her basically almost dead on the street when she trying to kill herself, he was doing research with stem cells. So he wanted to help her do a sex change without having to go through all the surgical pain that with that procedure. So by doing with stem cells, the body would transform eventually. But when Dr. Jihong came in, she tried to reverse the procedure. That's what it makes her be unstable with her stem cells and to control it in a way that she have abilities to. She can grow her hair long and use it as a weapon. She can age you by touching you, and she can transform back from female to female. I mean, female to male and vice versa. But the most important thing that I liked to keep from her it was the colors because I wanted to embrace the transgender community, and that's why the colors of her costume is a transgender flag basically, or the colors of the transgender flag.
So it's so funny. I didn't even realize that. I just popped up a picture there, but then my whole screen went away. So I was like, "What?" Uh, I didn't even think about that or notice it. But yeah, you're right. You got the transgender flag, and kind of the pinks and blues a little bit. It's really subtle, but it works well because it just it embodies that. And I like your characters are good because they're archetypal, but they're also sort of like drawn in a way that sort of embodies who they represent in terms of communities. Another community that you touch on is one very near and dear to my heart because I self-identify as a bear. So we get Kian, is that right?
Kian, yeah.
Kian, who is this bearish figure. My only thing with Kian, and I don't love his hair choice. The long hair thing, I don't know. I've got my hair growing out a little bit right now because of COVID, and so we're gonna
Uh-huh.
see what that does. But otherwise, I'm like, oh, long hair is a challenge for me. But I love that Bear identifies. He gets to go out in one point in San Francisco. That is actually one of my favorite moments in the comics. So you get the characters, you kind of bring them all together after telling everybody's story, and then you get to have like a night out, which is very classic. Like if you're an X-Men fan and you get the baseball episode or when they go to the bar and hang out, like those moments, or the Avengers that have like a house party or something, like those moments when you can see your superhero like characters not fighting but just interacting and having like a good time. Like you can't do that all the time, but it's nice
Yeah.
when it happens, right?
It's important because I feel like that's how we can connect more with each character when we give them more like more real, like Stan Lee will start doing back in the days. That's what he stand up for making more real characters.
Yeah, so talking about Stan Lee, what were your favorite like early Marvel influences? What did you read? What did you really like?
Well, I didn't like. I mean, I didn't read too much comic books because when I was coming out of the closet in Puerto Rico and being Latino, I really felt like not many resonate with me. I liked Wonder Woman because back then it was like the title that it was controversial you know because originally what it was about Wonder Woman. For me, it's a feminist book where it's about sadomasochism and sexual freedom and stuff like that. So I kind of liked more that than others because of the same. And that's why since little I always believed that I wanted to be a writer because I want someone to tell our story. I want someone to share our experiences and to the world to know so we can have more compassion with each other.
Yeah, I think you're. It's a shame that there were things that like you just didn't get exposed to, or but it's understandable. I totally get it, and it's like I talk to people because you get that pushback online about like why did they make Spider-Man black now? Why is there a black Spider-Man? And it's like, do you understand that when you're a young child and you look at Spider-Man as Peter Parker as this white boy, you may not have as much in common, so you may not be as into it. But if you
Yeah,
have a young black boy who looks like you. I mean, whoever, whatever ethnicity, whatever anything, if they look like you, if they have your story somewhat, like it's really empowering. I'm trying to think, and I should know, but I off the top of my head, are there any like Puerto Rican comic figures that have come out recently?
So recently there was the Puerto Rican woman hero, La Borinqueña.
Okay.
That was a few years ago, but I never hear more about her.
Hmm.
And don't get me wrong about comics. I feel like every comic has a great message, but it always is a good message hiding in in the stereotype of like a white man being the powerful man. They're good messages. All of them have great messages. Captain America, X-Men's, but it's always hiding. It doesn't tell the message how it truly is. That's where we come, where we
Yeah.
just want to tell the message how it is. We don't want to hide it. One of the things that I get a lot in social media is that people tell me, I love your story until I get to the LGBT part. If you want to sell, just take that out, that part. We don't care about the sexuality of the characters. And I say, no, we're not going to the closet. We're going to tell you just straight how it is. I don't care. But that's been the problem in the comics. Big companies are afraid to losing their fans. We're not afraid. We're starting from the bottom and we're going to go steady and with a great follower that are going to accept diverse and inclusive heroes.
It's so funny because I've had this discussion with a few different people, and Cena Grace, also one of the first interviews we did in this series, and he had some interesting stories about when he was at Marvel and working with Iceman and trying to tell this story about a gay Iceman, and that he's been gay for a while and is just kind of coming to terms with it and discussing it, and I think he really believes too that Marvel allowed him a certain amount of time to tell that, but then just went, nah, that's not what we want. That's not what we want to focus on. And it's hard because you go, all right, you want it to be a good character, you want it to be an interesting story, but you also want it to be a good representation and talk about a good message. And I think Class 6 does a pretty good job of blending those two because you don't just focus on queer representation, even though that is front and center. You get into some pretty deep philosophical and religious and historical like things like
Yes.
I mean I
It's
don't want to
so
hold on.
complex.
You're okay. So I will be honest. I've read a few superhero, queer superhero things. Like I said, I've talked about them, and I'm not denigrating any of them. They're all interesting, but a lot of times they don't go where yours go. Like you don't just stop there. You're like, no, we're gonna have this alien drag queen character, and she's gonna pretty much be like the founder creator of all of Earth and go back to like the Bible times
Yeah.
and tell like you go deep in a way. You talk to the underground lizard people in the center of the earth, and when you did that, you had me because like that's just one of those like tropes and those kind of things that like sci-fi deep sci-fi fans like we've seen it before, but it doesn't get trotted out very often, and when it does it's like, oh, you're doing the lizard people, okay, cool. So I applaud you for that. It's not as simple as
Thank
just
you.
there's a bear, there's a drag queen, there's a transgender character, blah blah blah. But let's talk about Queen Azara. Azar.
Isar. Yeah.
Isar. Uh, so she's a drag queen, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But she's also this, like, again, progenitor of humanity. And, oh, also her boyfriend is Lucifer, which I can't, that's like a whole, we'll come back to that one. That one's fascinating too. So how did you decide around, we're going to have a drag queen be the creator of humanity? Like, what led you to that beat?
So I was thinking like, how some many conservative, are, that were not made by God, that this is bad. So I said, you know what? Let's just give them a God that is a drag queen. How about that? And when I first moved to San Francisco, the Sisters of Perpetuals of Indulgence, they inspire me so much because all the work they have done 40 years ago when the AIDS pandemic started, they were right there, not scared, giving condoms, talking to people, helping the community. For me, they're real heroes, and we are all about representing real people. So Sister Roma, which many people know about her, was my
Yes.
inspiration,
Oh,
and from her it was that I created this character. But I need to give her a more deep story. And that's when I decided that she was created in planet Mars as a safe way to preserve humanity. And that's from the beginning. She's always had a mission. That's why we have human race and reptilian race in the center of air. That's why she had made hard decisions in her life. And through history, how she created religion, trying to keep humanity safe. Instead, religion turned into something bad that she's trying to fix now.
Isn't it
She's
funny how, like, okay, well, let me back up here. First of all, does Sister Roma know you did this?
Yes,
Okay,
she does.
fantastic. Because if not, I could probably yeah, that's awesome. So I bet she was delighted. I
Yeah.
would believe, yeah, knowing her this much, like I met her a few times, right? She's a nerd. But so okay, what? So you kind of took this as a chance to tell your own mythology, which really is what it is. Like you're creating your own mythology, but it's sort of done in a way to poke at this idea of Christianity, or at least the sort of faiths of the world that kind of have this narrative. Uh, not in a bad way. I think you do it in a respectful way, but you kind of go, yeah, okay, that's fine. Jesus, all this stuff. Yeah, it was a sort of a cover up,
Yeah.
right? Um, but I do love the fact that she's very humanized too, because even though she's sort of an alien progenitor of the humanity and all that, she's very human in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
In fact, she's a drag queen who dresses in amazing outfits, which I do want to talk about your penciler. Is it Doris Marcano?
Doris? Yeah.
I want to come back to talk about her stuff. But the outfits are amazing. And then she does karaoke, or she lip syncs. I mean, karaoke is lip syncing, right? In a bar in San Francisco, and that was when I was like, "Oh, this is special." Again, going back to that like party that they're the going out the outing they have. So okay, so Queen Esar, she's got this whole mission, and like I love that you kind of play with its history gone wrong. Like she didn't want this, but people have taken what she created and perverted it and used it. Perfect, great idea, like a classic, right, trope. But then you bring in Lucifer, and so episode 7, which is not out yet, correct?
It's out digitally, but we are adding 12 to 15 pages for the print edition. And
So
then once
that's
the print edition is out, we're gonna exchange the digital version. We're adding more story to it because after this big book, so far the feedback that we got from people who bought the 7 is that they loved it, but they just want to know more. Like they're desperate for another episode. So I say, you know what? Let me develop more that story because I have a lot to tell. That episode is gonna explain a lot of things. It's gonna make sense. It's beautiful.
I
Um,
I'm excited because you let me see the digital, and it opens up a whole new world, literally. That I think the people again who know the whole lizard people trope and knows about all that, like they're gonna love the idea of it, right? But it is a lot. It's a lot to take in because 1 through 6 introducing and now is the organization called the Human Rights Army? Is that what they're going by, or is that sort of the parent organization?
so the Human Rights Army is a part organization created by Nami. And then we, on episode 11, we're going to learn the story about the Psychicker, the stray ally, because it's very important to know that
Oh,
who brings together heroes is a stray ally.
oh, that's now we've already introduced her. Is it Jennifer? I
Yeah,
think. Okay.
Jennifer. We call her the Psychicker.
I love that's she's a straight ally. So I'm gonna come back to Nami too because
Uh-huh.
that's a whole other thing. I don't want to miss out on that because there's a story there that's fascinating. But they're located. They have their secret headquarters, which Queen Esar sets up, and then the whole Lucifer thing happens, and there's a lot that you unpack in that episode 7. So that's the Kickstarter that's currently live, correct?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
correct.
So I'm going to put that up here. We'll put a link on our website. We'll do the whole thing. But if you're interested in, oh gosh, where'd I go? Oh, there it is. If you're interested in playing a part in this comics production right now, you can actually go to Kickstarter and you can support the comic episode or issue 7. And again, I've read it. Let me tell you, it's a deep dive. It's sci-fi amazingness. You learn about this character Lucifer, who obviously is, I guess, the inspiration behind who we think of in mythology is Lucifer, right?
Yeah.
And he's kind of the paramour, sort of. But like, what's his relationship to Queen Isar?
So they were both made in a lab, but they made it in a way that they. Oh, well, I'm not supposed to say this,
Oh, okay. No, no, no. Don't
but
spoil anything. But
no, okay. There's a reason why they can kill each other, and it's date back to when they created both of them. So they were boyfriends for a while, and they sent it to our planet to fix it for humanity to come here. But when he's here, he started having these second thoughts about, come on, you and I were smarter. The humans created, we can create something better, something greater. So that's when they start to, have their difference. Then in episode 8, which takes place in Egypt times. That's when we learn what happened to Queen Sarah and Lucifer for them to end up as enemies, because he wanted to join the other race, the reptilian race that we've been fighting for hundreds of thousands of years. So that betray is what put them apart. But together, they were the scientists that have the knowledge to create humans. Lucifer can create the souls, and Queen Sarah can create the body. That's why in episode 8, you're gonna see demons around, and you're gonna see
oh,
Queen's angels.
I love it because you're filling in all of the mythological gaps
Yeah.
of this sort of new mythology, which is really cool. So I don't want to forget about Nami. Nami is really a cool character, and Nami is not necessarily at first a sympathetic character, which is also kind of nice because a lot of times we're always big on, oh, we want our queer characters to be good people, and the straight or the oppressive types, whether they're straight or whatever, like to be the bad people. It's very binary. It's very kind of okay. But Nami is kind of a horrible person at first,
Yes.
and
He's
that's please tell us about Nami.
so Nami is psychologically he's a special character because he was so innocent, and he was about when he was born he got a unknown disease, and he got a couple weeks before he could die. So his dad used to work for a tech company, and he developed nanotechnology that by implementing in his body it will stop the disease. What he didn't know is that this nanotechnology took Nami body as a home and started reproducing. If his dad didn't slow the nano reproduction, Nami can eventually turn into a robot, which we don't know when he's going to turn into a robot. And so what happened when his dad is coming from a meeting on episode 2 that we're going to learn where they're coming from on episode 10.
Mm.
So when they come, they find out that Nami was about to run away with his boyfriend. A lot of Hong Kong and Chinese families, especially the rich one there's two things they hate is LGBT and poor people. So when their parents found out that Nami was gonna run away with a gay guy from a poor village, his dad decided to burn the whole village down because if Nami escaped, his whole empire that he created with Nami's ability will disappear. So, we're all being in love. And especially when we're young, we're like, love is everything and we do anything for love. So for Nami being so young and all the plans that he had to move to San Francisco with his boyfriend to start a new life and be able to be free, everything was taken away because of hate, because people couldn't accept their love. So Nami's so obsessed with these powerful rich people that he just wanna steal from them, and that's how he created the Human Rights Army. Every month it's like a gay Robin Hood. Every money he steals, he passes it to the sidekicker to create his army to defend gay people from around the world. But he's so obsessed that when his boyfriend died, he goes and get his brain, and he's able to upload his boyfriend into a machine, but without his consent. And he's obsessed, and they live in a virtual reality because he don't want to let go. He don't want to let go, and he just obsessed with this organization. He wants to bring them down, and his boyfriend's like, no, just let me go, let me be free. It's time for you to be free. But Nami's obsession just You have to read episode 2 to see how it ends.
So I will like you've done a great job of laying it out, but like Nami and his relationship with his boyfriend and the fact that they do the VR thing and you don't realize that at first, and then when you do, you're like, what's going? This is really screwed up, and then the sort of let's say the depiction of is it Jean
Seal,
Seo
Seal.
Seo. It's disturbing to say the least. Like uh he's not a sex robot, he's not a fully functioning no, he's a floating head.
Yeah.
It was very I like the design a lot. Your
Thank you.
Doris did those issues as well.
Yeah, Doris.
Doris has got a great design. She makes a lot of great. I'm assuming pronouns. Tell me if I'm wrong. Uh, Great choices. I don't know. Where did you find Doris?
So me and my partner is from Venezuela, Waiyen. Before we started the comic book, we were helping people in Venezuela because the economy was super bad. So then we were started thinking like, how about we maybe buy clothes here, send it there, open a store in a mall, like let's start creating jobs with the income that we have rather than keep supporting people. So it become more sustainable. And then when we started the comic book, we decided why don't we start hiring artists in Venezuela? I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people who have talent. So we hired this first artist that few months later, she took all the files and basically was like asking us for money for the files in exchange because we were in the US. She thought that we have a lot of money, which we don't. So I didn't realize she brought her sister to do inking, but I didn't
Oh,
realize that she was the one who was actually drawing. It was her sister.
oh,
So after her sister, Doris' sister, got fired, we Doris stayed with us and she continued to develop her skills. And it's been 6 years. Let me tell you, I don't know how she does it. I always told her like, Doris, do you live in my mind? I'm scared because I may have some dirty thoughts too. I'm like, how do you get everything out of my mind? Like I just visualize it. It's just incredible. It's like if we're connected. I think I'm so lucky to have her, and this is her first ever comic book,
wow.
the first one.
Because I will say another thing. And is this your first comic book?
Yes, and
Okay.
it's my first writing, the one that, my
you you
first book.
you see a lot of first time comic book storytellers both in the writing and the art, more in the writing, like you see a lot of not great choices, or you're still learning the medium. So like her storytelling is very clear. uh, there's very rarely a moment that I can get confused in the panels. Like, and that's like having only made one comic. I will put that on the table here, but having read quite a lot, I will say that it's a pleasant surprise from new comic book creators because they don't always know how the layouts work and then making their choices. But the other thing that I don't see a lot, and you're the exception, I think, is your writing is at that good balance between showing and not just telling. You really are
Mm,
great at like you're relying on the artist to be the storyteller, and you're giving them the material, but you're also like not over explaining everything, which is so good. Because
thank
the
you.
last thing a lot of people, and I think you would agree, the last thing you want to do when you're reading a comic is sit there and read word balloons that like cover up all the action. You're
Yeah,
there for the comics, you're not there for the prose.
yeah. We
So
have to
you
do a lot of editing to bring down to just say the essential words that you have to. That's what we say always, just essential.
So you have a whole team of people, because from when I saw the liner notes of the team, I mean, you've got editors, you got the pencil, you got the inking, you got the colors teams, you got the letterers. I mean, how did you so Doris and then that whole thing? How did you pull everybody else together to bring this to life?
So eventually we start telling the artists as we hire more people, we told, oh, do you know anybody, any friend or brother or sister, until maybe it took us 2, 3 years to be a solid team. And every time that a new person joined, we had to redo all the pages because then all the pages would look different. So we did the first episode like 3 times. So we're like, oh my God, when we finished Nevia, it was like, oh, please, let's not touch it again. um, one of our artists is a drag queen, La Petra, that transform, which I love her. She's gonna be doing for us some entertaining videos in the future.
Oh, that's
Um,
awesome.
yeah, I'm so excited. And but yeah, they all came together, by recommendation, and I think it's just an amazing team. For not being able to work face to face and everybody working from home, I think we're a good team. We all criticize when we have to. I always say, I approve everything at the end, but I like to vote. I say, what do you guys think? If the majority thinks that we should do it that way, even if I don't agree, let's do it that way. Because they love the project, this is their baby, and their opinion is as important as mine. So I like to always give them that power to be able to make choices for the comic book as well.
Well, that's great because it is a team effort, and you realize that. So that's really cool, and I love hearing about distributed projects that work. Because I'm not from an industry that's very distributed in certain ways, although we're learning how to now. So anytime I can see a really agile sort of distributed project, it's a success story for me to share with my colleagues in what I do. But I don't want to overlook certain characters. So I'm going to go back to. So we don't learn a lot about him, but Aaron is like the twink, I'm guessing.
No, Aaron is the leather.
Oh, he's
Nami is a twin hero.
Oh, Nami's the train. Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
You're right. Okay, so Aaron's the leather. He's got the harness, but you don't learn a lot about Aaron in the first six.
Yes, because Aaron's, we're gonna learn about him on episode 10, and let me tell you, Aaron is a character that struggled with meth addiction, and he was abused by the cartel in Venezuela when he was little. And on episode 10 is when so on the older episodes, we see that how characters connect, but it's not actually fully clear, like why Queen starts looking for Nami, why some characters are connecting. But on episode 10, we're gonna learn with Aaron's story how they all have been interconnected from before,
Mm.
from their past, but they just never, connect physically. But all their past has brought them together. So, but Aaron is gonna be one of the most controversial characters because we're gonna show what people who are struggling with meth are going through. So many times we look at them like, ew, these people are disgusting. The, you know,
They're
these
just
people
people.
are
Yeah.
sick. They need help. They need compassion. And the more we attack them, the more we look down at them, we are not helping. We're actually putting them more down into the problem that they're going through. So with this character, I wanted to create awareness of people who are struggling with addictions and tell them, you know what, you can get out of it and you can be a hero. You have what it takes. There's a community that wants to understand you. There's a community that wants to tell the people what you're going through, how you're feeling, what are your thoughts, because it's hard for people who are going through to be able to open up in this society. So that character for me is very important.
Yeah, I have friends who have struggled with meth, and that's I think that's going to be really powerful for them and for the community in general because it is such a horrible affliction, that people fall into. And in both, it's not just a gay problem. It's meth is a problem all over the
Yeah,
United States. What meth and other addictions is become quite an issue. And I think it's in some ways it's getting worse because of the pandemic because you leave people to their own devices and they don't have other outlets or other ways to socialize. They're going to just. So
yeah.
that's great. I'm really excited about Aaron. I'm not really in the leather community, but I definitely am around the leather community enough, and that's exciting to see the take on that. And then Jaziri.
Yeah, that's sorry.
I love that you channel the Loas because, in a way, that's not the obvious. Oh, we're just going to do the voodoo character because that's not what you do, which is really good. Because that's sort of offensive. I've found out, and I didn't know until not that recent, but still. So Jaziri from Uganda, which is also where you kind of touch on some of the politics with the Ugandan homosexual purge, which I'm sure a lot of us have read those horrifying stories of not only what they do now culturally, but also with the laws they're trying to stand up, and then the support they're getting from certain churches in the
Yeah.
Western world is disgusting. As a person of faith, it blows my mind that people would align themselves that way. But Jaziri, she reminds me of kind of a vixen like character. and also sort of a, I think you got Captain Power for some reason, and I know it's not like Captain Power proper, but it's that channeling of the Earth Force, I guess, the sort of the or like Poison Ivy would be another.
Yeah.
So is that kind of how you conceived of Jaziri? Was it sort of a we need sort of a Earth Force kind
Yeah,
of?
because I realized the female of mother and female more like with nature, the mother nature, but at the same time I wanted to give a strong character to her rather than soft touch. That's why, and then taking in consideration her background, religion, where nature was is a very important factor for that religion, then I that's how I created her to be the mother nature
It's
powers.
really cool. It's really cool because again, I think it shows people. It reminds people that Vudun and the Loas is not a Caribbean only. Like that didn't come from New Orleans. It didn't
Yeah.
come from the Caribbean. It came from Africa, and sort of tracing it back to its roots is really, I think, instructive, but also true.
Actually, just to give you guys a preview, we are going to be releasing next year a title about Jazeri's ancestors in the
Oh,
1600s of how the Loas end up in a secret island and how the men and some other women of this religion that it was a kingdom before were taken into the U.S. On the slave trade. So it's going to be a very interesting title. It will be only one season, but we're gonna learn more about what happened on the 1600s.
that's so cool. I like that. I love historical fiction more and more recently. Specifically things like Lovecraft Country, which I don't know if you're keeping up with the HBO show, but where you can bring in this sort of cult, not cult, but like genre stuff around real events and
Yeah,
explore both that history, but also kind of have fun with it. So that's exciting. I'm really excited to read that.
yeah,
Now,
and just a quick background check. I mean, background about the series that um, their connection to Queen Isari is because when humans arrived to this universe, we all went to different moons and planets, and eventually, with time and the environment, everybody starts changing. Humans become differently. So Jaster is descended from the original human ancestors, but they developed a special power. And thanks to them, Queen Star and Lucifer were able to terraform our planet, for us to, be here today. So it's thanks to Jaseri's ancestors. So that's how they all connect. And when Jaseri's grandmother is dying, she's like, please look for the queen. There's more people. So it means that are there more of Jaseri's really race out there that we don't know? We have to find out in a couple of seasons.
it's kind of like it's sort of like a Wonder Woman-y kind of like Paradise Island sort of enclave of these people that are isolated. I like that. I like not when I see I like when I see ideas informing other ideas and sort of transforming into that. And I read that in, and I hope if even if that wasn't the intent, I love seeing that connective tissue and even the Captain Planet thing for some reason. I don't know why it's in my head, uh, or Vixen. But okay, so one more character, and this one you really throw in towards the end of the first 6 issues, which they can still buy. Is it like the mid season one? I
Yeah,
think it's called.
mid-season special. Yeah,
So you can still buy that on Kickstarter, correct? Or
yeah.
all the
So
platforms.
yeah, so right now in Kickstarter we have you can get the mid-season together with the soon to be released episode 7. Also, we have the premium box, which includes some prints and stickers, and magnets.
That's awesome. So I put a link up, or I put our on there. You can see, and so you can see some of the characters we've been talking about. Queen Asari is there in the center, and then that's Kian, Jasiri. Oh God, what was her name? The straight ally,
Jennifer.
Jennifer, Nivea, Aaron, and Nami. So that's the cast, or that's the like the core cast, right?
Yeah,
It's again it's I'm so glad that this is out there, and I want more people obviously to check this out. But there's a character you throw in there at the end of I think it's episode or issue 6. Julian.
Oh yeah, that's Julian. That's one of the
Julian.
enemies. That's one of the
Yeah,
villains.
he's got an interesting sort of parallel with Kian, and so at one point I was like, "Is this like a will they, won't they?" Like I feel like they have something in common, maybe. So
And you
there's a
haven't seen episode 9 where they gonna when they have nightmares and they connect. So there's something happening in these nightmares, and we're bringing two characters from the other universe. For those of you who don't know, the whole story of Class 6 is that humans were living. There is another universe where a main enemy were annihilate all the races except for the reptilian race and the human race. So both races joined together to share their last habitable planet in that universe and to protect each other from the enemy. That they thought the enemy died, but instead that enemy escaped when the enemy found out that the universe was contracting to the point of killing everything. So reptilian and humans decided, okay, we need to find another universe to go because we're all gonna die. So after many attempts and they failed, they found our universe and they were able to bring, but because the distance and the force needed, they couldn't bring everybody. So only a few amount of humans and reptilian can come here. So that's when both races start to turn against each other because when you have to choose, you want to choose more of yours.
yeah.
When we arrived to this universe, the reptilian wanted to use the beings that were already here and use it as a slave, as bioengineering, and humans wanted to create coalitions and exchange knowledge. So humans kind of start pushing away the reptilian race, and together with other beings from this universe, they were isolated, and that's how they become enemy. So on episode 9, that is called Nightmares, we're gonna learn about the two ruling kingdoms from that universe. That one is a queer couple, one is reptilian, and one is a human. And they upload their consciousness into Kian because Kian was a fetus. Kian is made out of DNA. So when the other universe was dying, they needed to store all the information they had, but they didn't know how. So they created a human baby, a human fetus, where all the information from that universe was gonna be able to be stored. Because right now we can storage all the information of the world in 1 gram of synthetic DNA.
I love that you played with that idea. But you pull in so many ideas, and this is where I'm like, where are you getting all of this? Because there's so many great tropes and ideas and like real like science, and then you bring it all into this world. Do you have you like you're pretty well read then, like, or you definitely have background in like sci-fi, if not like comics.
Yeah,
Okay,
I have done a lot of research between
okay.
religion and science.
I mean, it has to. I mean, people could like come up with it on their own, I'm sure. But like, as I'm reading this, I'm like, oh my gosh, you're doing this too. This is great, and it's there. It's good though. It's good. It's you're taking these real things or these ideas, ancient astronauts, Queen Asari, the lizard people, whatever, like all of that, and you're blending it into this world that it fits. It fits all fits together. The inner world, which is the thing with the issue 7. This is the part where I'm like, oh my god, and then there's this too. And I don't want to spoil that because that is the thing that's still out there. You're doing a Kickstarter for. You're going to add more material to. But I mean, I'm excited for people to learn more about Lucifer. I'm always a fan of learning more about like the Lucifer story and how it actually happened or whatever. Like, I love that idea of the fallen
and
angel and then what their motivations were and how this all plays out. So like,
and Lucifer is gonna be a character you have to pay a lot of attention because on season 30 there's gonna be a big twist, but there's 29 seasons to go.
I'm also really excited for you. The fact that you have got this planned out for that long, and so each season is what 12
12
episodes.
episodes, yeah.
Huh. Like I'm good for you. I mean, like I am so excited. You have got this epic that you are going to tell, and that you are going to find a home for and have made a home for. It's ambitious, and I'm really thrilled to see that because I'll be honest, like we don't have a lot of this in queer comics. We have a lot of slice of life indie stuff. We have some really good anthologies we've talked a lot about in this series, like Stuck Rubber Baby and Alison Bechtel, Fun Home, and all of these things. But like in terms of queer superhero epic, there's relatively little still. And
Yeah.
The Protectors is a big one that's been ongoing for a long time. And then the Pride, you know, we talked about from Joe Glass. Like, there's a few out there, but this is going to be something when you get it all collected. It's going to be pretty cool to have that epic thing. You can be like, here you go, young queer superhero fan, have at it. This is
Yeah.
your Bible now.
I'm writing it in a way, when I write it, I think about it have a TV show. And that's how I trying to develop everything on the
Oh,
twists, and it's a lot of work. Like every day I think about it, when I'm showering, when I'm working out, walking, sleeping. Sometimes I dream about it and I wake up and I write the idea. It's like I made this of my life, and I when I structured the 30 seasons, for it took me for like few months. Literally, all the four walls were full of papers. Every paper was each episode of each season. And I had to go, okay, this dot develop all the way here. Okay, let me not forget. Let me put it here. Okay, this one we explain. Okay, this one I will explain it here. And it was just the most fun experience ever. It was like getting into the world of classics, and all around all I see is just like episodes and stories and characters. And there's gonna be like 10 characters more that are coming
oh.
from different races, from one that is like 90 years old. There's just so many more coming, more
Well,
inclusive.
I'm excited for all these ideas that you're bringing to fruition and hiring people. I mean, like that's another thing is like a lot of people who don't appreciate like indie comics when it is entirely you and the team that you have put together. Like that's no small undertaking. So not only is the creativity there, but you're doing the job. Like you're doing the thing that publishers struggle to do sometimes. So that's commendable to be sure, and I'm very excited for you. We didn't even talk about President Obama. I did have one random question before we wrap up. Was that originally Obama or was that Trump? And then you made it
Mm,
Obama? How did that all
No.
come to? Okay.
So Obama is on classics. Once he find out about the truth of humanity, he joins Queen Esar because of what is about to happen. It's because Donald Trump is gonna win the election, and he's one of our main villains.
So that
So
is going to be the yes. So and I remember reading. I think you gave me one of the documents that you were doing. I think it's for the next season then, because yeah, I was like, wait a minute, why is Obama kind of an asshole?
yeah,
But
because
you
he's
do it in a way that makes sense. That's the thing. It's not that he's an asshole. It's a misunderstanding. And then once they kind of align themselves, he's actually like, no, we're trying to help. We believe in you. So then, of course, now it's all going to go to shit because you know who gets elected. So.
yeah. So that's when you're gonna see a lot of action the next season. And actually, the last episode is going to be very shocking because you will, for those who have read it, the Nazis have never died. They're still around because the Nazis are the reptilian race. That's why they kill so many people, and they're somewhere. Nami knows where they are. So once Nami meets Queen Sar, maybe Queen Sar is going after them because of the real enemy.
I love that you brought the Nazis in because, like, the lizard people weren't enough. They had to be Nazi lizard people.
Yeah, and those are current topics that we're dealing today.
Oh, it's funny because QAnon, which is the crazy, right wing conservative nonsense, absolutely touches on lizard people, and they tie back to the blood libel, which was a Nazi propaganda idea. So, like, you're taking all of these things out there in the zeitgeist, and you're like weaving them into your fictional world, and that's great. I,
Thank
I
you.
I love it. I love it. Fernando, thank you so much for being on and for talking about it. Your website is cravencomics.com. That's like
Yes.
and all social media, I'm guessing, if you look up Craven Comics, Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then, Kickstarter now for episode 7. That ends pretty soon, right?
Yeah, in about 17 or 18 days.
Okay. And then from there, will you do each episode individually as well?
Yeah. Now this is gonna be the first single episode that we're going to do, and then from there we will do that, and then every 6 episode we will do a mid-season, which is gonna be more like a collectible item, and we are going to every season we're going to do a coffee table book, which is gonna be black and white, and it's all inking only,
Ooh.
because I feel like inking is beautiful, and I just want to show that part of the art that our artists, do so well.
Yeah, the line work is so good. Honestly, it's so weird. The first time I read the first issue, it wasn't colored. It was like this weird negative print. I think there was a bug in the app or something. But either way, it
Oh,
looked great. It looked great because again, the inking shone through. So
yeah.
that was the cool thing. So yeah, we'll share this up on social media. Make sure people check it out. Any other places they can find you other than Kraven Comics? That's all, right?
Uh,
That's
for now, yeah, that's all. No, no other way.
well, that's there's plenty to look at. We're really excited. Thank you again so much for joining
Thank you
us.
for having me, and I'm just so happy to talk to you today. I'm so happy. Thank you so much for the opportunity to express and talk about our stories and talk about the real people that are out there to celebrate.
Yeah, and we should also give a shout out to Queer Books for hooking us up because I think that's how
Yes,
you found us. Our friends
yes.
at Queer Books are doing some great work highlighting queer authors.
It's so
So
important. It's so important to support each other, especially in these hard times. Let me tell everybody, whether it's me or other indie comics, right now the industry needs you a lot. You know, big corporations they can survive. Indie comics not only have they struggle all the time, but right now in this time they're struggling even more. So even if if you can donate on other Kickstarter $3, $2, believe me, it does help. We all need each other to thrive in these hard times.
amen. No, it's so true. And every time a new Kickstarter pops up, it's like, oh, gotta get this, gotta get this. Even if it's just digital only, whatever you can do, it really goes a long way. Well, thank you again, Fernando, and I look forward to meeting you in person once we
Me too.
can. And
Yeah.
that'll be so cool.
Yeah.
All right, thanks again.
Okay, thank you. Bye. Have a good night.